Good morning. I'm presenting to you how we applied Scrum at scale in a telco intelligent network environment for resilient systems that can handle a lot of stress. What we did in the beginning is realize that we were in a very traditional environment, traditional waterfall with a lot of subcontracting and departmentalized work, row silos, etc. And when you look at things like contracts overhead in this area, it's in hindsight very, very, very funny. So concerning, I would say. So 3 major challenges we identified were that those contracts were siloed. They actually also motivated certain types of behavior of reduced accountability in certain areas, lots of communication overhead, and even adding the fact that we had distributed development made a real difference also. So we had communication between the remote sites and our local site, and that's multiplied by 3 because of the 3 different silos of development, integration, system test. System test is really important for the quality level and running the non-functional testing as well. So what we did is to counter that, and also the additional challenge we found, which is an uneven flow. So lots of delays we saw in cumulative flow diagrams, for example, of seeing long meetings, etc., which the teams report were hindering their productivity and value flow. So we addressed this by introducing first each team, an executive action team, owning the transformation backlog of running a transformation from traditional incremental waterfall to agile. What we did first is include the people team, HR, and the workers' council, because the workers' council was concerned that Scrum would add a lot of transparency and stress to employees, right? So we actually convinced them by explaining that teams are very empowered and have actually taking ownership of quality and applying pull, that the opposite was the case. So this was really helping us from the very beginning, bringing them on board, making their job easier even. And the legal stuff also was easier because we just went down to 1 contract, which was a different way of contracting. It was a contract that was, first of all, had one important component of, can we become better to improve the process, to work together with the subcontractor? So we did joint retrospective, obviously, assessing the quality of the work and collaboration. And then we also improved the way of contracting by flexing the contracts, by just saying whatever is in the contract, that's the next thing to work on. So flexible content in the contract. Every 2 weeks there was a new contract, basically based on the frame contract. What we also added is, in the second step, we grew this team to more teams because the market demand was rising. So we had more remote teams and more on-site teams. Because they were autonomously delivering features, they were more decoupled and we had more accountability for those teams, but we still had one team culture because we were delivering one system in the end, full transparency. So this is an easy way to scale, so it's open for further scaling depending on the needs. We addressed the flow topic by doing a very simple change in the approach of how even Scrum is run traditionally. So teams still complained also at scale about lengthy meetings on this side, on the area of productization and the backlog, high-level productization, but also the refinement and slicing of stories. So what we ended up doing is actually do this more regular in smaller batches and slices, also for these meetings, shown here as part of the owner or product owner circle. So we did daily productization, daily product prioritization sessions, and also after the daily stand-up, team local refinement sessions, small batches of refinement, right? Because everything should be ready by the next sprint, and we should be knowing what's in it for us and if we can commit to that. So the outcome in the end is a reduction of the overhead, a better flow in the system, less WIP, work in process, and stress and overtime also went down for the teams. That was visible through the happiness metrics, which went up by a quarter, 25%. And we had a reduction in lead time from average 7 weeks to 2 weeks. So we could inject very important changes 2 weeks before the release deadline. And customer satisfaction went up as well. Finally, the customer also has an agile coach because it's an overall ecosystem. So this is a nice statement to have that the client, the customer, agile coach also confirmed we created a one-team culture, which really helped the case. Thank you. Questions?
How do you mentioned the teams were distributed geographically.
Yeah.
How did you guys bring collaboration across teams once they were distributed geographically? What kind of techniques did you guys use?
Right. So there was, first of all, collaboration on the refinement side when we discovered that there were potential dependencies between. So we tried to already decouple the work as much as possible to have clear ownership of certain areas in the product backlog. And then even during the sprint plannings, we discovered dependencies. So we had actually plannings on the same cadence on cross-functional, cross-team events happening. We had video links, so we could talk immediately about newly discovered dependencies and resolving them. We were planning only one sprint at a time.
Can you expand on the happiness metrics?
Yes, it's very simple. We just had a happiness barometer, and it's actually on the team wall or the door. So whenever people are leaving the room during the day, they can actually modify the happiness index. Every member of a team is just putting their metrics, the happiness score, and then you see immediately on a daily basis if the mood goes up and down, and then we would track how it was at the end of the sprint and track that as a trend and a chart, so adding more to the data.